This massive box on my lap is absolutely full of your miniatures, and I'm going to paint them for you. But there's a catch. Now, when I say there's a catch, it's not all one-sided, because I have no idea what's inside each of these packages. If you'll just let me rummage for one, you can see that they're all sealed, opaque packages, and they just have the name of the person that sent them on one side of them. However, the people that sent them don't know how I'm going to paint them. All they have is a promise that I will treat it with the same respect I would treat a commission, and we're going to go from there. So in today's video, we're going to lucky dip and take one or two miniatures out of this box, see what we open up, and start to talk about some paint and maybe get a little bit on the models. Right then, so I'm here at the hobby desk. I've got the box beside me, and I'm gonna take a little blind dip into it, pull a miniature out, and then actually, I'm gonna pull two miniatures out, and we'll move to down cam, have a look what they are. Okay, that's two. You saw that I didn't look. I don't know what they are, so let's unwrap them and find out what chaos awaits me. Okay, so package number one says Chris's secret miniature on it, and that's all it tells me. But because it says Chris's secret miniature on it, I do know who this is from. This is from Chris C. There's a few Chris's in my community, but this one is Chris C. So let's whip a knife out of the drawer and let's have a look what he sent us. Okay, well, it's something in a blister, so I'm gonna guess GW. Okay, so this is a miniature that when it came out, I was pretty hyped for it. I'll just try and get it centered on the camera for you there. It's the Infernus Abomination from the Horus Heresy line, and it's a beaut. This will be a really fun one, a really, really fun one. I am looking forward to this. However, now that I've seen it, I don't actually think it is Chris C, and I'm gonna have to just go back and double check with the correct Chris. I think it might be Chris B, which is a different Chris, because this is Horus Heresy, and Chris B is one of my commission clients, I cannot speak today, that does a lot of Horus Heresy with me. So I will check that out and confirm it before I put any paint on it, because if it is for Chris B, then I already know how he likes his models based, so that's going to make part of my life easier, because I'll be able to base it in a way that he'll really dig. So yeah, that'll all happen off camera, but let's see what the other miniature is. Okay, this one is from Alex B. So let's see what Alex B has sent us. Oh, it's in a lovely little dome type arrangement. That's very nice. I've actually transported minis like this myself in the past, and it does work exceptionally well as long as you make sure that they're fixed to the bottom of the dome nicely. I can kind of see what it is as well, but I'll wait until I can show it to you properly before I talk about it. So yeah, here it is. It's the Catachan Sergeant, and I think, is this slightly converted? I don't recall him having a handout with binos like that. But maybe that's just me misremembering, because this is one of the few Catachan special editions that I'd never actually got to paint back when G-dubs were doing them all. That's very cool. We've got a little magnet under there as well. Oh, that's completely off camera. So yeah, this is, it's the Catachan Sergeant. The one who looks a bit like the guy from Predator, and you know, there's like dribbly, what they painted up as bright green blood just here and stuff. So yeah, this will be fun. It'll be interesting to try and sort of subvert some expectations with this, maybe do a few things a little bit differently to how people might expect, but that's going to be a good time. I'm looking forward to both of these. Okay, so I've got some kind of Horus Heresy, Chaosy, Demony type arrangement, and a Catachan in kind of armor and a cap, and that's two pretty different miniatures, and that's going to be a real challenge. So I'm going to move to down cam now, and we'll start taking a look at the first of the two, making some decisions about how we're going to paint it. Let's go. Okie dokie. So we've got our two models for this first installment of the mini painting randomizer challenge. Now then, looking at them, this one's going to need just a tiny bit of cleanup. Just a couple of tiny little mold lines, nothing major. And this one obviously is going to need building. So that is going to be my first job, and I will be right back. And there you have it. That's the Abomination built and primed, and the Catachan sergeant. He is a sergeant, isn't he? Cleaned up and primed. So we can get on with some painting, and as a result of painting, we can also have a discussion. And I'm going to start with this model here. So quick cut in the footage while I just get it mounted up onto a hobby handle and get some colours on my palette, and then we're going to start talking and painting. Okay, so quick chat and some theory craft whilst we, just before we actually start putting some colour on this model. This one I think is going to take slightly longer of the two, which is the other reason I started with it. But one of the things I want to talk about is context clues that inform painting decisions. So there are certain things about this model contextually that force us to do certain things in order to paint it in such a way that it makes sense visually. For example, the facial features on the sergeant are sculpted with Afro-Caribbean features. So if you paint this model with anything other than dark skin, it's going to look kind of odd. It's going to look like it's not intended to be that way, because it isn't intended to be that way. The character has dark skin, and there are noticeable features present in Afro-Caribbean people who, which have been translated to the model. So we're going to have to do dark skin, and that's absolutely fine because I really enjoy painting dark skin. So that actually works out great for me. The other thing we're going to have to do is we have background context on the basing materials, the things that actually come with the sculpt that tell us that this model is in a jungle. It's also a Catachan jungle fighter. So because we know this is a jungle-based model, we also kind of have to paint the armor in some sort of jungle camouflage. It's a military model, we know that from the context of the lore behind it, and the visual context tells us that the setting is a jungle. You put a military style model in a jungle, it's going to be wearing some sort of military camouflage, and that's going to be a kind of jungle pattern. So the two things I have to come up with are a convincing scheme for jungliness and a good dark skin workup. So first thing I'm going to do is have a look at some skin, and just because that's like the deepest back layer in the model. So if we get the skin painted first, then we can correct any sort of little touch-ups that need to be done before we then start on the rest. So I'm going to get some skin on this guy first, and then we'll see where we're going from there. Right, so I've started highlighting this now. I'm actually most of the way through highlighting these skin tones. And I just wanted to point out something that I think is really important and really easy to overlook with darker skin tones. As you build up your highlights, it really matters, at least I think so, to maintain a reddishness to whatever tone you go with. So you'll notice here that you can still see a good chunk of red tones in these skin highlights. It's especially clear on the arm here. That just sort of prevents a kind of undead, a finished look that lacks vitality, which is definitely not something you want from any skin tone if you're doing a living human. So in the case of this really dark skin tone, what I've done is just pulled in some of this wine red into my skin tones as I'm mixing them up, just to be able to stay on top of that kind of nice, healthy, warm, ready glow to the skin. And my final highlight for this skin, or my sort of final set of highlights, are actually going to be something pretty close to what you would base coat Caucasian skin in. So somewhere the same kind of tones where you would start Caucasian skin are the kind of tones where you want to finish dark skin. So yeah, just a little tip for you. I'm going to finish this off now. Okie dokie. So I've got myself some skin, and the next thing I want to move on to is the soft part of the armor, which will have the camo pattern on it. So like the trousers and the undervest. Reason being that I want to do those next is A, they're a bit complex, and B, again, I'm working in order of like the furthest setback components to the most jutting out components. So that makes sense. For the camo, I found this Vietnam era US Army woodland pattern, which is what they wore apparently in Vietnam. So I figured that that made sense. You know, Predator, which obviously the sculpt is influenced by, is set in the Vietnam War or around the Vietnam War. So I figured it made sense to go with that as a sort of camouflage pattern. So I'm going to get some sort of representation of this onto the model next, and then we'll see what's left to do after that. Right, so I've very quickly smashed that camouflage pattern in, and it looks a bit vibrant at the moment, but that's by design, because I actually don't really want to go crazy highlighting it. Highlighting over camouflage patterns takes a really long time, and it's not something I'd normally do unless I was specifically asked to. So what I've done instead is made it all too bright so that I can hit it with some of the old Too Thin Coats Battle Mud wash. And as you'll see, it's going to very quickly just come down into a nice drab looking camouflage. Okay, so I have now darkened down those camouflages. I did end up doing just a tiny amount of highlighting on them, but like literally just with one color, just with a beige. I've done the vest. I've tidied up the blacks a little bit just so that you can read the sculpt a bit better on camera. And then the final thing I did was just hit everything with a matte varnish just so that it all reads a bit clearer, again, on camera more than anything. But then I like to matte varnish most of my models anyway. So now we're going to get on with just some basic army green armor. And I'm also going to put some leathers in. So yeah, I'll give you a little bit of sped up footage, but these bits aren't going to be super interesting, so nothing...
Someone is at the front door.
I'll just give you a little look now at how the armour is coming along. I haven't really started doing much work on the leathers just yet, but I thought this would be a good point to sort of turn the camera back on and just give you a look at what's going on with the armor. I'm just doing a second stage highlight currently. Quite fine, quite predominantly edge based. And this is also where I can start to include some little sort of scratches and dings and stuff like that. So start to get quite a bit of detail coming in at this stage. And I think when you have a miniature like this where the amount of sort of decision making that you can put into it is limited by the sculpt itself, one of the ways you can kind of bring back some of the fun and some of the creativity is in how you choose to detail it. So nice piece of advice for you if you ever find yourself feeling a bit demotivated because you've got a lot of models like this to paint where you don't get to make many choices, is instead make choices based around how you detail things. And you can see this is coming together really nicely now and won't be super long until it's starting to look done, to be honest. And so here's what our guy looks like after I've finished the armor and finished the leather. Like I said before, you know, it really starts to look pretty close to complete now. And really all that's left is putting in some detailing. So all I'm going to do now is check back with you once I've done all of the detailing, and then I'll give you another look once the piece is completely finished. Because this isn't a tutorial, this is more about just talking about my decisions and on the fly painty thoughts. So I figure that that's probably fine. Yeah, I'll see you shortly. So here's a quick update with the model itself all finished up. And I guess now I just need to get some basing done on this. So again, I'm going to disappear for a second, and by the magic of TV, when I come back, this will be based. And with that, we have a finished model. The basing was really straightforward. I just put some Astrogranite GW texture paste down, then some liquid pigments over the top of that to colour it, painted everything else in, chucked a couple of tufts on. Really straightforward, gives a kind of jungly, trodden mud kind of messed up feel. Looks really cool, I think, and you'll get a better look at this with some nicer lighting and stuff at the end of the video, so love to hear what you think. But Alex, thank you for sending this one in, and I hope you enjoy it when it gets back to you. And we may as well keep rolling while the rolling is good, so straight on to the next miniature. And I'm going to start out by dropping some real dark red into all of these little recesses. They've all got sort of horns in them and stuff, and they're pretty gross looking. And I want to fill them all with a dark red. I've got an idea for a colour scheme for this that I think will look really sick, but we've got to start getting some groundwork in first. So groundwork first, and then on to the good stuff. I'm planning to hit this with some like fleshy coloured top tones, and then have the under stuff look like kind of really sore exposed muscle. And I think it will look really sick. So I'm just going to tour around the model, get this red in, see how it looks once the red is in. And then if I'm still feeling confident in my idea, then I will progress on to some fleshy flesh tones. So yeah, I'll crack on with this, and I will see you folks when I next have a decent progress update for you. Yeah, so I think I quite easily found something that I liked. I basically just worked this up from like dark red to mid red, into some pinks, and then washed the whole thing with some purples, and I think that gives a nice sort of sore underskin kind of look, you know, kind of sore musculature sort of thing. I think the plan is for most of the spikes to be black, but I have sort of kept the ones that are jutting out through those skin bits in the same colours. I think, again, that's going to work absolutely fine. So my next job is to start getting some flesh tones on this guy. And I'm starting with one of my go-to flesh tones, which is Chianti Sienna from Reaper. And as you can see, it's a fairly dark flesh tone, but that's going to give me lots of room to work up to some really sort of pallid, pale flesh, which should look really, really good. So time to get on with that. Okay, so good morning. It's actually the next day now. I couldn't quite get both of those finished in the same day, but I wanted to just sort of interrupt working up that skin to show you an update of how it's looking, because I think it's going to be really freaky. To be honest, there should probably be a trypophobia warning attached to this model, because yeah, there's a lot of textures on it that I think would probably upset people with trypophobia. But yeah, it's coming along really nice, and I'm very happy with the colour scheme selection. So I'm going to keep working at this skin, and the next time you see the model, hopefully all the pinky skin bits will be done. Yeah, so I think this decision to do pink skin has actually gone really well. The red underneath looks kind of really sore and nasty, and the sort of human skin tones on top are just a bit unsettling. I really dig how this has turned out. So that's that section finished now. All that remains, I'm going to do some leathers and metallics off camera, but I'm also going to start highlighting up the black claws. And in order to achieve that, I'm actually going to go with some cold tones to create some contrast to all the nice warm tones that we've got going on already. So this should look pretty sick when you next see it. I will work on these kind of blue tones in the claws next, and yeah, we'll take a little look at how it looks after that. Oh yes, oh yes. I think the choice to go with some cold colours to contrast, that's really paid off. This is coming along lovely now. So yeah, as I mentioned previously, there's like some leathers and metals next, which are obviously like super deterministic, you know, like the model just tells me what I have to paint. It's not really much fun for you, so I'm, again, just going to skip through that and show you once it's all finished. You've seen me paint leather a million times at this point. So, yeah, I put the metals and the leathers in, and I realised that actually I was just really close to done with the miniature, so I just threw some glowies in with a bit of green fluoro paint and, like, painted the rock here, and it's just basically done now. So I need to move on to basing it. There are a couple of little touch-ups to do on it as well, but I need to move on to basing it, and then this is the second part of the randomizer challenge done, so feeling pretty good about that. Now, I did mention at the start of the video, this is for Chris B. I did double check that. I thought it might be Chris C, but it was indeed Chris B. And I actually know how he has all his heresy stuff based, because he is a regular commission client of mine. I've done many, many thousands of points of heresy for him. So I'm actually going to base this in the same style as the rest of his heresy stuff, just using a bit of insider knowledge there. It is very simple basing because it's more geared towards like a huge army, but I think it's probably better to give him something that he can play with the rest of his army and it look like it makes sense, seeing as it kind of belongs with all of that anyway. So that's what I'm going to do, and yeah, I will start getting some texture paste, some of this stuff on there, and make a start on that. All right, so there we go. I did say the basing was simple, even more simple when there's a big element like a rock already on the base as well. But that's done and based in the same way as the rest of Chris's heresy collection. So I guess the next thing we need to do is get both of these miniatures side by side and take a nice posh shot for you to look at them. And you can decide which one you prefer. And with that, we have 2 completed miniatures for the randomizer challenge. Now, this is a new thing, and I'm doing it mostly to work on my own creativity, to work on my own decision-making skills in miniature painting, but also a lot of the opportunity here was to just give people some cheap commissions. So I've treated both of these as if they were silver level commissions or high tabletop level commissions, and then put just a little bit more into them just to finesse them a touch. And I want to know which one of these you think is the more successful, which one you prefer the look of, whatever grounds on which you judge these kind of things, really. But I'd be very interested to hear your comments below, just on which one you think I pulled off better, which one you would rather have as your own miniature, I guess. The freaky, creepy, holy skin Abomination or the Catachan. They are both very cool miniatures, a great start to the series, and there will be more in this series because when we petitioned for people to take part in this, we actually got quite a few responses. I guess that's what offering cheap commissions will do. So there are going to be a good few more episodes of this. Let me know if you liked it. Maybe a little thumbs up. Maybe we could do a little subscribe to the channel if you want to see following videos in this series. If you turn on notifications, you will of course get told about them. Check the links below in the description, and of course, please do check out Patreon or Ko-fi if you wish to support the channel. That's going to be all from me for this one. Very little talking head, which I'm sure you're all relieved for. No need to look at my ugly mug any longer. So I'll see you in the next one, folks. Thank you for watching, and bye-bye for now.